Hello everyone, it is the 28th of December 2025 and you probably have noticed there weren't any videos lately. That was the reason. The reason was I was sick, or I am still sick. I'm a little bit better. I have a cough, I have a cold and stuffy nose. That was the reason why I wasn't able to make any videos. Obviously, I would hope that all of you had a Merry Christmas, great holidays, and you are preparing for New Year's Eve. But because I was sick, I think this is a good opportunity to kind of talk about my favorite retro games, because obviously I was in bed and was able to play a couple of games that I enjoy a lot. And I thought end of the year, me being sick in bed playing retro games would be a perfect opportunity to talk about my favorite retro games of 2025 that have helped me play whilst I was sick, but also, as you all know, helped me or is a tool. These retro gaming devices. This is the Anbernic RG35XX Plus, my favorite retro device because I can carry it wherever I go. But I also have the RG40XV, not my favorite device, but I still love this as the device itself, but not as a tool to carry with me all of the time for mental health. I'm not going to go into that because this video is about my favorite games, but I want to kind of paint the picture so that you can kind of evaluate why these games are maybe also for you and you are in the same headspace like I am. So I'm basically a casual gamer. I'm over 40. I have responsibilities. I don't have that much time to play games, especially those big AAA games. I always kind of explain that with AAA games, especially on my Xbox, you need to dedicate some time to play those games because either you start up the game and then you potentially have to download an update. The game is loading. You always have to be on the internet. Then your internet doesn't work and somehow the DRM is kind of prohibiting you to play it. It takes a while just to start up the game. Then all of the games, no matter how good they are very huge. And if you don't have a lot of time to play these games continuously because you have a freelance project like I do most of the times, you sometimes have play pauses of at least a week, sometimes 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then you go into the game and you kind of forget where you left off. So that is why I kind of got a little bit detached from gaming. Enter these retro gaming devices. Because I can carry them with me all of the time and they have safe states, I have been able to utilize this for mental health in terms of being able to play during a very busy day with work, with responsibilities and whatever it might be. And this year hasn't been great, but being able to play for 10 to 30 minutes in between whatever I'm doing gives me the opportunity to kind of reset my brain and kind of go into the job or whatever I have been doing with a fresh perspective. Therefore, choosing the games and the device, this Anbernic device that I can carry in addition to my phone in my pocket wherever I'm going, is a huge plus. And I choose games specifically for the ease of use to get into the games and not kind of forget where I left off. Or if I have a game with a big storyline, I do kind of consult a walkthrough. Some people would consider this cheating, but if you, as I said, if you have a busy day, you sometimes just cannot remember where you left off, especially if you have to grind a lot in that game, to which I will get in a second. So that is my mindset when choosing a game or playing a game and really enjoying it. I want to just jump into it. I want to play it for a couple of minutes. Sometimes I want a story that kind of helps me to dive into that story. But most of the time, if it's a short game or a jump run, for example, it is very easy for me to kind of switch off my brain. And yeah, kind of get into that. All right, so let's go into my list without any particular order. And by the way, I obviously have all of the cartridges of these games. So yeah, the very first game on this list, again, it's not an order of what I prefer the most. So Tetris. Tetris is such a good game. It was the launch title of the Game Boy, and I actually got a Game Boy when I grew up. So there's obviously a lot of nostalgia attached to that game, but I can recognize that this is a really, really good game. It is a lot of fun. It has a lot of replayability factors, and it is a perfect game to just play in between. It's a puzzle game. It also kind of, because you're doing a puzzle and have to react, again, it helps me to kind of switch off my train of thought of whatever problem I have to tackle in that moment. Again, it helps to just play it for 10 minutes and I forget what I had to do. And for me, it's never about ignoring my problems, but resetting my brain. And the puzzle game is really good at resetting your brain and your mind and then going back to whatever you have to do with a fresh perspective. So Tetris, for that, perfect. Next one is Super Mario 3 on the GBA, aka the Super Mario 4. I didn't think that I would like this game so much because initially I'm a Wario Land player, to which I will get also. This is also on the list, but with Wario Land, it's a game that is much slower, and for me personally, I consider it much more approachable for a casual gamer. For example, Super Mario 1, I played that too on the Game Boy when I was a child, but that game was it was very difficult. I never finished the game. I only got to one of the last levels is the one where you have the plane, and that level is so amazing. And truth to be told, I feel like I only played that level maybe 10 times in my whole life because I was having such a hard time to get to that level. The level before that was actually the level in Asia. Not sure in which country specifically. And I have no real recollection, but I remember really specifically that level is so difficult. And I got really frustrated. So I was always under the impression I would never like Super Mario. And then came Wario Land, which I get in a second. And that was a game where I was like, okay, this is a pace that as a child and as an adult, I think it is very approachable. So I was under the impression of Super Mario 4 on the GBA, which is the remake of Super Mario 3 for the GBA. I thought, okay, that wouldn't, I don't know if I could play that. Or if I would enjoy it. But I have to say it is very enjoyable, and especially on the GBA, the controls are really good. For some reason, many of the retro gaming channels always say Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo is the best platformer ever made. The controls are tight. That is what everyone is saying. And I tried to replay that. I remember also launch title on the Super Nintendo. I played that game a lot. I played it now on a retro gaming device. Maybe my system is at fault or how I set it up, but I felt that Super Mario World on the retro gaming device felt like playing on ice. I didn't find the controls tight at all. I didn't enjoy playing it. So again, I was under the impression, okay, Super Mario 4, on the GBA, not going to enjoy it. But I was wrong. I feel like those controls are really tight. It's not like skating on ice, and it is very approachable as well. And with save states, yes, you could consider it cheating, but for me as a casual gamer, it was very enjoyable. So, and this brings us to Wario Land. Wario Land on the Game Boy. Also, I got that as a child. I love that game. Again, a very approachable game for casual players because the pacing it's not as fast as Super Mario. And because maybe it's also, this is speculation, but from a technical speak, Wario is bigger than Super Mario and therefore has a bigger surface area in a way, and makes jumping from platform to platform much easier than the small Super Mario, which in comparison seems very thin. Maybe that's why it seems easier. So that game, I replayed that, a lot of fun. And that brought me basically to Wario Land 4 on GBA. Also so enjoyable, a lot of fun to play. One of the few platform jump and run games that I actually was able to finish as a child, and I finished that as an adult as well now, and love it. And next up, one of my absolute favorite games to just play for a couple of minutes, Streets of Rage 2 on Genesis. Oh, this game is so, I love beat 'em ups. Also, The Punisher on Capcom System 2, I believe. It's a card game. Beat 'em up games, so good. But it also needs a lot of the controls, and the pace needs to be good. And I feel like Streets of Rage 2 on Genesis and Punisher on the Capcom arcade system, really good. Also, by the way, I totally forgot to put that on the list. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on GBA. Also on Super Nintendo, the time travel game from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Also, 2 beat-em-up games, really, really good. Highly recommended. And the one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on GBA actually has some role-playing system in place where you can actually buy equipment for the game. Really cool system. I didn't go into that too much because, again, casual gamer, with beat-em-ups, I just want to kind of fight my way through. So Streets of Rage 2 Genesis, amazing. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you prefer Game Boy or Nintendo systems, also really good. Now, this brings us to the story-driven games. So many of you probably have seen, or some of you have probably seen my video about Chrono Trigger. Absolute favorite game in my top 5 games. Really late to the party, but the story is good. The music is great. The fight system, the battle system is really good because in comparison to Final Fantasy games, you see your opponents, which again is a big deal when you are a casual gamer, because it makes it so much easier to just dive into it and kind of consider, oh, do I really want to go into that fight, or do I want to quit here and go back to work, basically. So it is an amazing game. Also, the storyline. This is one of the few games where I actually was really, really invested in the characters and the protagonists of the storyline. Much more so than the next games that we'll mention. These characters and the story is really good. I can highly recommend it. I played it through I took consultation in a walkthrough. That being said, I only did it a couple of times because the game does a really good job at, and some of you might scoff at it, if you're a really advanced gamer, you probably kind of think like, what the hell, what is he talking about? But from casual gamers' perspective, I feel like Chrono Trigger does a really good job at taking your hand and kind of guiding you through the story. With some of the Final Fantasy games, for example, you sometimes get a little bit lost where you need to go, especially with, excuse me, again, still a little bit sick. So with some of the Final Fantasy games, especially Final Fantasy VI, you need the manual, the physical manual, because there is a map inside. If you don't know, if you don't have that manual, you sometimes don't know where to go. And then you get lost. And that's what I mean by Chrono Trigger is somewhat kind of taking your hand. It's not like literally taking your hand, but it is much easier to navigate the game where you need to go next and what to do next. With modern games, you usually have like a map with these points where your next quest is, and you have like a quest guide. With these older games, you don't have that. So Chrono Trigger does a good job to guide you through the game, despite the fact you don't have like a quest journal or something like that. So that was really helpful for me as a casual gamer, and that made playing Chrono Trigger extremely enjoyable. Which brings us now to the Final Fantasy games. So the first Final Fantasy games that I really want to mention is Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1, which actually the Anbernic devices are capable of. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to get a breath because, again, still sick. So Final Fantasy VII is a game, one of the very few games that I played through as a kid on a PlayStation because my attention span wasn't that great. The only games that I actually played through without any hesitations were LucasArts games, those point-and-click games, Monkey Island, stuff like that. But I don't have those on this, so they are not on this list. So with PlayStation games, I was always kind of struggling to kind of fully commit to them and play them through. But Final Fantasy VII, for some reason, was really grabbing my attention in terms of story, in terms of gameplay. And I actually, because with the original playthrough on PlayStation, you had not save states, but save points. And sometimes, obviously, it gets late at night or you have to go to school and you didn't reach the save point. So I kept the TV on, the PlayStation on, and told my mother, don't switch this off. I need to continue playing. Fortunately, they always were respectful, and my parents did not turn off the PlayStation. Although obviously it was a huge power drain. Obviously back then power bills were different than today. So really kudos to my parents for letting me do that, actually. Now that I think of it and have to pay my own electricity bills. Anyways, I played that through, and I played it through again on this Anbernic device. By the way, I will link this in the description below as an affiliate links because I think this is highly recommendable. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII, highly recommended. And because I was such a big fan of Final Fantasy VII, and I'm a big fan of Linus Tech Tips, I listen a lot to the Wan Show podcast, I actually heard that Final Fantasy VI, which is also known as Final Fantasy III, on Super Nintendo is supposedly one of the best games ever. So I was tempted, and I started the game after playing Chrono Trigger. And as I said, in Chrono Trigger, you see your enemies. In Final Fantasy, battles are randomized. And when I started Final Fantasy VI, I was kind of taken aback by the amount of random battles that you have to go through in the beginning. And still, I'm fairly far in the game. I haven't played through yet, but I'm almost in the last quarter of the game. And yeah, these random battles were really annoying in the beginning. But I kind of pushed through, and I also grinded a lot, all of the characters, just to make sure I was able to kind of get through the game as easily as possible. And now that I played it a little bit longer, I can also say that the characters are really cool. Not all of them. You have a bunch of characters, too many in my humble opinion, but there are a couple of characters that are really good, and you are kind of emotionally invested in them. And it's so funny to say that, because I think that is a testament to the developers of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, that despite the fact you only see like these 8-bit sprites on screen, so these tiny characters, you're still invested in them. And again, I think this is a huge testament to the developers and how good these stories in these games are. And Final Fantasy VI has a really good storyline, and I'm really looking forward to see how this kind of ends. And yeah, I can highly recommend it. I would say if you play this after Chrono Trigger, be prepared for a lot of annoying random battles and having to grind a little bit. But if you push through, it is actually worth playing it for the story. But I'm also playing it with a walkthrough because, as I said, it's a big game. It's a huge game. And if you don't have the manual with the map, which you also should try to find, it is. Honestly, I found it very difficult to kind of say, okay, where the hell do I need to go next? So for me as a casual gamer, it is pretty much, I would say for 60% of the game, I was consulting a walkthrough. Not necessarily specifically for knowing, okay, what do I need to go to do next, but rather to kind of, okay, this boss is a little bit annoying. What do I need to do? Or, for example, I'm not the biggest fan of dungeon crawling on Diablo. I love Diablo. On that, for some reason I like to, but with Final Fantasy games, with random battles, I am a little bit annoyed at dungeon crawling and kind of finding my way, because every time I kind of think, okay, maybe I need to go there, I get through 10 battles, random battles, and I kind of forgot, okay, where did I come from? So I kind of consult a walkthrough to kind of see, okay, do I actually need to go there? Is there a treasure box or an item that I need to get? So that is how I kind of use the walkthrough. But other than that, I think Final Fantasy VI is pretty good on Super Nintendo. So yeah, these were my favorite games let me rephrase it. So these are my favorite retro games that I played on the Anbernic RG35XX Plus. I played through the year, that helped me to utilize this as a perfect tool, as an everyday carry tool. And yeah, what do you think about this list? And what are your favorite retro games that you have been playing this year? Let me know in the comment section below. And more importantly, because I talked about Final Fantasy VI, I was grinding a lot, right? And I actually kind of grinded and fought all of these battles in a forest, in this one forest, by just kind of clicking here, like going in circles, going into battle. And I did that a little bit of mindlessly whilst watching Star Trek The Next Generation on one hand. You maybe saw that video previously. But I also started watching Star Trek Voyager. And the next video will be about Star Trek Voyager. So don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here so you won't miss that video about is Voyager worth watching in 2025 or 2026, and maybe check out my Chrono Trigger review about up here, and YouTube thinks they like the video down here. We see each other in the next video. Thank you very much.